Okay.
If
I will
you can, I know you said you had 3 displays.
ask him if we're using the same laptop. And all right, welcome back. It's been a while. If you were watching last week, you'll know it was the first week in a while where I actually did 4 full practices. I actually felt great during, but if you watched the last vlog where I was doing a lot of high bar, where I was trying to get this coccyx connection last Friday, I noticed my shoulder get a little bit sore right after that and throughout the rest of the practice. And I didn't think too much of it, but it's just taken a lot longer to recover than I was hoping for. And at the beginning of the week, I was feeling kind of sick. So I figured it was just best to let myself fully recover with my shoulder and my sickness and all that kind of stuff before I got back into it. So it's been 6 days since I worked out, so I'm gonna ease back into it, hoping that I can learn something from last week in terms of not pushing it too hard, because otherwise I'll be forced to take time off. After some self-reflecting over the last week and pushing it a little too much, just specifically on the Friday, the other 3 practices I felt great, especially waking up on Friday. I was a little tired, but I wasn't hurting at all. But I did a little bit too much on Friday, so I gotta do a better job at going into the weekend tired and sore, but not actually in pain. But today's gonna be mainly getting my body moving again, nothing too strenuous. Gotta break in some high bar grips. The only event that I'll actually try and do some real stuff on is probably floor, because my legs feel pretty good. I just feel a little bit heavy. But other than that, for pommel and P-bars, it'll just be basic circles, swings, pirouettes, stuff like that. Not a lot of overhead pressing, because I think that's what flared up my shoulder, doing those cotches, and a lot of P-bars and pommel dismounts, just anything straight arm overhead. Makes my rotator cuffs and teres minor, major, whatever it is, kind of flare up just because it's overactive. I'll keep that in mind in the future, but time for P-bar swings, see how my shoulder holds up. Okay, I changed my mind. I'm actually gonna break in grips first. Don't worry, I'm not gonna show everything. I'm probably just gonna speed through it. Basically, when we get new ones, the leather's like super, super stiff. So just doing lots of giant swings, anything to kind of stretch it out and get it molded to our hands a little bit better so we can actually feel comfortable doing real skills. And it works perfectly because I need to kind of stretch out anyways and not just jump into skills because of last week. It'll honestly probably be a day or 2 of this, just doing the basic stuff. I might do a little bit tomorrow, just depending on how the grips feel. And then I'll get back into skills next week, assuming my shoulder feels better and my grips are good to go. It's a good thing all I'm doing is trying to break in grips, because I thought it was hard after just 3 days off, feeling heavy and sluggish. 6 days, more than double. And now if you've been watching for a while ago I talked about how I need to glue my grips because the dowel that helps us hold onto the bar, whenever I get new ones, it comes unraveled whenever I just do dismounts, but apparently just doing giants, it starts to unravel. See how it's already starting to split like that? So probably at the end of the day, I may as well just rip the whole thing off and then glue it right from the start so I don't have to worry about it next time. One of the cons of being 6'2", 175, 180 pounds and trying to do high bar. Days and I go back to having baby wrists. Look at this. It's supposed to be like that. Completely unraveled, just from Stalders and Giants. It's a good thing I didn't just jump into skills right away. That's it for high bar today. I'm gonna go to floor. Goal for today is to get through 3 back double fulls, 3 2.5 layouts, 3 triple fulls, and 3 tuck full double fulls, all by themselves, just to get used to bouncing again, and hopefully my knees feel okay tomorrow and I can do a little bit more sequence work or try some of the harder passes. I did an extra one because those first 2 sucked booty. Unfortunately, this is a problem I had in college whenever my shoulders would act up, mainly my left one. Because it's sore from going overhead a lot, either from high bar or doing a lot of overhead pressing, my rotator cuffs get kind of flared up. Even though floor is all about my legs, I do still need to set and swing my arms really quickly. So maybe it's subconsciously, maybe it's on purpose, but whenever my shoulders are sore, I feel like my sets on floor aren't as good and they'll kind of like stop a little bit early, which is probably why that felt like it went up more without good rotation. Same thing that happened on the back double fulls, because I don't really want to lift my left arm super high just because it's a little bit irritated. That's why it'll pull me off to the side as well. So something I need to keep in mind when my shoulder is sore, that if I don't focus on it a lot, I'm gonna go off to the side and my set's gonna be all funky. Setting properly is not going to hurt my shoulder, it's just something I need to focus on. I actually felt much tighter and straighter until right as I was about to punch for the layout. I thought I was doing a good job to square out for the layout, but the last like 15 degrees, it felt like I stopped trying to square up to face forwards, and I left my one shoulder back a little bit, so when I punched for the layout, even though it was tight, it pulled me off to the right side, which is why I went out of bounds. I could also just not overdo the 2.5, so it doesn't go forward as much, but having my feet a little bit more underneath me or behind me makes the punch for the layout easier, especially when my knees are either sore or I come back from taking a break. I like how whippy that 2.5 was. It was just a little bit off to the side. right down the middle, but I punched very flat-footed, not on my toes. Probably because I was focused so much on going straight, I wasn't thinking about having a really tight punch. What's the word I'm looking for? I was ready for it, so I didn't give out, but I also wasn't ready enough to like really have a big change in direction off the floor. Let's say that. That was obviously the best one so far. It's nice and square. Felt like it had a decent punch that I was ready for on my legs. Might be just after the last 6 days feeling a little bit heavier, not as used to being very explosive. I felt the punch a little bit in my lower back, but that also could just be this floor hitting a little bit of a dead spot. On to triples. Before I go and wreck myself, I'm just gonna say it out loud. The problem that I was having with back double fulls and 2.5s was not lifting my left arm quick enough on the takeoff. And even when I'm not worried about my shoulders, that's something that I have to focus on for triples to have them look the way that I want them to. So I'm gonna do one just high layout, kind of to warm up the quick snap down for my ankles. But that'll be the main thing I focus on, is making sure I get both arms up quickly and evenly before I start the twist. Otherwise, I'll miss out on height, which means I'll be twisting into the ground, and I'll probably go a little crooked as well. I curse America for using AI. It really is a good floor if you can get used to it, but I feel like just a round off layout shouldn't hurt this much. And if there's any gymnasts watching that have used a speed floor and an AI floor, you'll know the difference and you'll know what I'm talking about. Very square actually, and I think I overdid this a little bit, which is why I broke out and landed with my chest so low. I felt, based off the takeoff, that I kind of had to pike down, because if I didn't and I stayed open, I would have landed and crunched my ankles quite a bit and taken a few steps forward. Better than I was expecting for the first one in a week. Actually longer than that. I haven't done triples on the floor in a while. I thought that one was gonna be much better, but it felt like I kind of hit a dead spot when I took off. But I went back and looked at the floor. I punched in the exact same spot that I did before, so that makes me think that I just wasn't fully ready for the punch, I guess, or maybe snapping out of the round off, I didn't stand up as quickly with my chest. If I don't have a good push off of my second hand on the round off, when I snap down, my chest is gonna be a lot lower, which is probably gonna make it feel like I'm punching more off of my heels instead of off of my toes, which makes it feel like a dead spot. This one, I'm gonna try and be a little more proactive, pushing off my second hand to be a little more upright when I punch. That should help me be a little quicker off the floor. I shortened the first step in the corner a little bit more, just to see if that would help it feel like less of a dead spot. Definitely felt more responsive off the floor. Not entirely sure if I actually did pick my chest up more before I punched, but overall it felt like it had more rise. You know, I said if I stick it, I would move on, so I will. But I wasn't a huge fan of that one because I tried to make sure that I took off with my chest upright. But because I actually did that and I wasn't used to it from the last few turns, my chest was upright, but then I still pulled back as well, so I didn't get as much change in direction as I was looking for. So basically, by the time I finished actually like fully breaking out with my arms, the floor just hit me right away, and I didn't have time to like fully break out, square up, and then land. Doing something like that is fine by itself, but if I have that kind of technique when I'm tired or whatever, that's when it becomes a little bit dangerous or scary, and I'd most likely play it safe and kind of just tuck and roll out of it if I felt that at the end of a routine or a half routine or whatever. That was really bad, really bad. Not terrible for the first one. I think because I was a little timid on the punch, I didn't fully square up when I broke out of the full. So as I punched, instead of going straight forwards, I kind of dumped my one shoulder off to the left. And then coming out of the double full, I wasn't as sharp, so I landed and stepped to the left as well. That's okay. Can't stick them all right. Felt much better. Being nitpicky though, when I broke out, I wasn't fully ready for it. It kind of hit and I felt my hips kind of go forwards first, just because I wasn't fully ready, instead of breaking out and squeezing in my midsection to be able to snap forward into that nice controlled landing. Dos más. Yeah, just watch that last one back. Even though it did feel better, I'm not seeing a big change in direction coming out of the tuck full. It's just tight, and then I'm kind of dumping into the double full right away. If I'm able to be a little sharper breaking out of that full and feel it go up first, and I can still drive my heels to get the rotation, it'll be actually how I want it to look. Felt flat-footed off the punch again. It might be hard to tell because it happened so quickly, but coming out of the tuck full, I might be square, facing straight forward, but my arms are in front of my chest. What I want to shoot for, even if I'm just doing a double full and I'm not worried about a Randy, is I break out and I'm square and my elbows are back, almost like I'm trying to pinch like a piece of paper or a pen between my shoulder blades, so I get more to snap with when I punch. Instead, right now, if I break out and my arms are a little bit in front, there's not a whole lot I can do because I can't punch and bring my arms back and then forward. There's not enough time to do that. So all I can hope for is that I punch and just kind of drop and drive my heels. So doing something like that, I'd be limited or maxed out at only doing a double full. Not a very good one at that. If I want to have really good prep, be able to focus on form a little bit more and have a nice square landing every single time, I got to be able to break out and leave it back here so it can go up first before I get into the twist. One more. All right, considering the main thing I talked about for the last minute was breaking out, leaving my chest and arms back a little bit more, I made that correction. It's just I wasn't fully ready for it just because of the first three that I did. I kept punching here. So I made the change to do this, but then didn't make the second necessary change to make everything work together. Kind of like I was talking about on triples, where when I finally snapped down and brought my chest up on the takeoff on the last triple, I didn't make a necessary correction to not pull backwards as much, which is why it kind of twisted into the ground. For this, I brought my chest and arms back on the punch, but I didn't punch and drive my heels as aggressive enough in order to have a nice big tight breakout, which is why I kind of hit a little bit soft in my midsection and wasn't ready to absorb for the stick, and I had to take a hop forward. Now I will go swing on P-bars. So even though I'm just doing swing to handstand and pirouettes and stuff, that's still gonna be activating the muscles in the back of my shoulder a little bit. So because I'm really just testing stuff out today, there's no need to toss on the ankle weights and treat it like my normal training, because I just wanna see how my shoulder responds for tomorrow based off the stuff that I do today. So I don't really wanna push it too hard. If anything, I'd rather play it extra safe and then feel better tomorrow, and then maybe do a little bit extra tomorrow after the weekend off. Sorry, because I have the weekend off. My goodness, I don't know if it's because I took 6 days off or if it's just that bad, but the palm bruise that I was talking about a while ago, it feels worse than when I was doing stuff regularly. This shit's annoying. So something that I've realized since my shoulder flared up over this last week, when it does start to compensate because my rotator cuffs and everything back there is just kind of overworked, instead of lifting overhead kind of with my shoulders like down and backwards and then lifting overhead, subconsciously to try and protect back there with my left arm especially, I'll kind of like stick my arm out and rotate inwards and then lift, which will actually overactivate my delts, mainly the side one and the front one, to compensate for the back being sore and tired, which if you didn't know, the shoulder is very, very complex. There's so many things that go into making sure it works and moves the way it's supposed to. The main thing that I've learned is that by the time something is actually bothering me so much that I have to stop and take a break, it's not just one thing that's kind of out of whack. It's actually like a series of problems that I didn't even realize were there until it's like, I don't know, the third or fourth thing. Talking to physiotherapists and doing kind of like my own research and stuff, it's like my infraspinatus will act up first, and then because that's acting up first, something else will be overactive, and then that will get tired, and then another thing will be overactive. And when I take breaks like this, I have to focus on like one thing at a time to make sure my shoulder goes like back to working the way it's supposed to in the first place. Like I have to focus on one thing at a time. So I spend a lot of time doing certain rehab exercises, mainly like external rotation stuff to strengthen all the little muscles back there. Gymnastics is very unpredictable, and if those little muscles aren't strong enough to support all the big stuff that I want to do, my shoulders just, they won't be able to handle it, period. All right, even though I really don't want to, I'm going to circle on horse a little bit, because if I don't do it today, I'm gonna regret it tomorrow when I have to go through the bullshit of trying to figure out how to circle again. Because I'm past that 2 or 3 day threshold where you take a long enough break and it just takes an entire day to get recalibrated again for pommel horse. And that's why you make sure you lean, because if you don't, you're gonna pike and kick the leather. Alright, those definitely weren't pretty, but just the fact that I got 10, I guess, is a good sign. Kept getting thrown off because I wasn't leaning enough on my right arm, so I was forced to pike, and that's why my circle kind of went up and down. Do one more turn of that and get some strength done. That one was much better. I wanted to do a little bit of side loop work because I have a feeling that's why my tongue face have just been a little bit off. I've only been focusing on the tongue face and not the circles leading into it or the circles out of it. So assuming my shoulder feels okay or doesn't feel any worse tomorrow, even if it's just a little sore but not in pain, that'll probably be what I'll focus on tomorrow, and leave any of the serious overhead pressing stuff that made it flare up in the first place for next week. Time for strength. All right, on the way home, it's dark and rainy. Love driving home in that. Today, obviously, it wasn't a whole lot, nothing super special. Just getting back into it after the 6 days off since last Friday to give my shoulder a break and get over the little bit of sickness I had. Fingers crossed, I wake up tomorrow and my shoulder isn't more pissed off than it was today, because each day for the last 3 or 4 days it has been getting better. And assuming it at least feels the same as it did this morning, or it feels a little bit better, I'll feel comfortable pushing it a little bit more tomorrow in the gym. I feel like nothing else needs to be said. So word of the day, let's go with basic, because it was basically a basics day.
But that is it for this lovely Thursday night. I will catch y'all Friday morning bright and early. Peace.